The Department of Justice expands probe in anti-LGBTQ prison violence in Georgia after 44 murders in the last 12 months. LGBTQ Nation reports that the Department of Justice, the DOJ, has opened an investigation into the allegedly deplorable conditions in Georgia's state prisons, sparked by an ongoing investigation into anti-LGBTQ sexual violence committed by prisoners and staff in Georgia. The sweeping probe will investigate the culture of violence in Georgia prisons, which resulted in at least 44 homicides in prison in 2020 and 2021, and at least one major prison riot. Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clarke said that the DOJ has received sufficient justification to expand the investigation into whether the state's prison system violates the Constitution's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishments, with families of inmates and advocacy groups documenting the deplorable conditions in Georgia prisons, including prisoners covered in blood, groups of inmates armed with machetes, and evidence of cells with no functioning toilet.
You know, the inhumane way that human beings are treated, it just disgusts me. And there's absolutely no protection for LGBT, especially trans people in prisons. And
it sounds like this has been going on for more than almost like a decade, because it goes back to Obama had made some initial investigation into this situation there.
Absolutely. It happened in 2016, the Obama administration, before leaving the White House. And it was the first Department of Justice probe, into focusing LGBTQ inmates, the first one specifically towards that. And
why do you think that we see stories about this? It's the same as the state laws that are being passed, anti-LGBT, etc., in the South. Why do we see it so much in the South?
I think it's a mentality of this fundamentalism, Christian fundamentalism, where it's misogynist, it's homophobic, it's anti-immigrant, it's anti-everything. And I do believe that it's been happening forever, but I think it's worse after Trump. And unfortunately, these kinds of jobs, corrections officers, there are a lot of amazing corrections officers, but in certain areas of the country, they attract a certain type of person that it's bound to
cultural
happen.
change. There has to be a cultural change, because it's
totally.
And that's where the root is. I think it goes back to it, because if we don't get it from there, where it's always going to be there.
And the South was the last to free the slaves, so it's
exactly.
It's never been a liberal part.
And what we have to see is why did it take 44 to bring it to light? And in 1 year, what really happened in that year that those occurred 44?
I'd actually be curious to find out what the number was in previous years, because perhaps now we're just getting full reporting of it.
Right. I mean, sadly, this is Georgia, but in Florida, the Miami Herald for years has been writing about, not necessarily South Florida prisons, but prisons upstate. Horrible stories about women being raped in prison. Stories about, inmates who burned to death in showers while the guards were looking the other way. This is an awful situation that, we are just some of the victims of these kinds of crimes.
This past week, I was in Tallahassee, and I met a homeless who had been in jail in Pensacola in the area, and we got talking, and I asked him what happened to his teeth, and he said the warden had asked for oral sex and hadn't provided, and in 2 days he got beaten up by the biggest inmates, two of the biggest inmates. So yes, it's pretty tragic.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+ community.